Hello, everyone, and welcome to Place-Based Podcast. I am Yolanda.
And I'm Tammy. I'm a place-based owner here in Sacramento, California. And prior to this, I was a photographer for 10 years.
And I am a former place-based owner who owned a space for about 10 years. And now I've turned myself into a place-based consultant. So today's topic is going to be about additional revenue streams for your place space. Tammy and I are going to kind of discuss some of our own experiences in bringing in additional revenue streams to our play spaces. And we'll talk about some additional revenue streams that we may have had ideas about, but just didn't have time to implement them in my case, or in Tammy's case, she may be thinking about implementing some of those things later on. So Tammy, why don't you start today with our topic?
Okay, so I want to talk to you guys a little bit the reason about why we have this topic, because I think that a lot of us go into owning a place space because we think, if you've ever been to one, you go into a place space and you're like, oh, well, there's like 20 people here. And you kind of calculate in your head, 20 people at $10. Like, wow, if you could just keep that up for every hour, I could be rolling in the dough, right? But that's such a myth because open play itself cannot sustain your business. So this is why we're talking about kind of what other things that you can do to kind of help with that. So for me, if you're not doing birthday parties, I feel like that's like the biggest revenue stream, right?
Right.
So you definitely have to do that. And then for us, the other big one is special events as well. Is that kind of the line you were thinking about going towards, or was it something different?
Yeah, for sure. So when I think of an indoor playground after years of owning one, I think of it as a four-legged, well-balanced, like a stool that you sit on. So my business, the name of it was a Maya Papaya, and underneath it, I had the tagline of play, learn, party, shop. And in establishing that in the beginning, I didn't really realize that I was doing something that would actually become how I teach people when they are getting ready to own a play space. I think that one, starting out before you even add your additional revenue streams, you should have your play revenue stream coming in. Of course, that's a part of your play space. Learn enrichment activities going on within your space, whether it's enrichment activities that you're charging people to be a part of, or you're just providing some type of craft daily, once a week, or whatever. And party, your birthday parties are definitely a part of your play space. And then shopping, some type of way to have people buy something from your place. So whether it be a little boutique that you have set up in your store, or if you're selling food, so whether you have a cafe or if you're just selling pre-packaged food. At my space, I had a self-serve cafe, if you would, and I basically had a coffee set up where parents can make their own coffee, and they purchased pre-packaged snacks that were kind of, in the kitchenette area where they were able to grab and go when they needed it. So I feel like every play space needs to have play, learn, party, shop streams of revenue coming in already. But then, in addition to that, you definitely need to have something else because, you're not always going to be able to sustain by doing those things each day. So I think the first thing in understanding which revenue streams to bring into, or additional revenue streams to bring into your space, you need to understand what your core business model is and figure out what additional streams of income may complement your space. And in addition to that, I think that you have to be able to almost get outside of your mental box and figure out where your additional streams of revenue will come in from. So your additional streams of revenue can come in online. They can come in from doing things off site, or they can come in from doing things on site in your actual space. So I think that in both of our notes, we're going to talk about some different ways that people can kind of do all of those in one of those three places. For me, something that happened quite early on was I was doing things online. I started by blogging sometimes, and I would make YouTube videos, honestly, before YouTube really even became popular and monetized. I was doing videos here and there. I would not say that I was a YouTuber, but I definitely was able to find clients that either wanted to come in and play at my place from watching things on YouTube, or I was able to meet people who wanted me to become a consultant with them. So through me doing things online, I started doing consulting. So I was able to bring in additional revenue streams in that way. And then for me, one other thing that I'll talk about, and then I'm going to let you share some of your ideas, because you do a really good job, Tammy, at bringing in additional revenue streams with some of your ideas. But something else that I did was I would go off-site and do mobile play activities. So I would do like circle time activities at birthday parties, or I would do circle time activities at different events that would happen in my city.
And it's good that you mentioned that too, because we talked about revenue streams that doesn't really, is not really directly in our space, but ends up being outside of our space, that ends up kind of being a separate business. One of the things that I do is a mobile playground, and it is part of my business, but in a way it is kind of another business in itself. Yeah. So it becomes a little bit difficult when you are trying to do those things, because you are trying to bring in money to help sustain your space. But then again, now you're creating an additional business revenue that's basically taking time away from what your end goal is, you know, which is basically trying to make your current space, your brick and mortar space, successful. So I try to think about what my strengths are as far as like what I can provide for the space. For instance, like I do photography. So I've been recently, what we've been doing is doing kind of like little mini portrait sessions at our space, you know, and that's kind of helping bring additional revenue. We're not charging a lot for them to come to take the pictures, but it kind of helps bring in, one, more clientele, and then two, they get to purchase more pictures after the fact. So so then after we could make, you know, a substantial more just after the event is actually done. So that really helps out a lot. And when you talked about consulting too, try thinking, this is not really in the consulting realm, but it's kind of almost the same thing. Try thinking about what kind of services you can provide to other businesses too. For instance, we do a lot of parties. So if you do a lot of parties, you could technically partner with other businesses where you could say, hey, you know, I can put you on a referral list, and to be on that referral list, it's X amount of dollars or whatever, you know, and giving them a certain type of value with that business. So for instance, we say to our preferred partners, we send their information out to every party that emails us, even if they don't book, you know, and I'm a photographer, so I gave them a photography package with that too. I went out and I took professional pictures for them to put on their website or to use on their social media. We do social media blasts for them on our social media pages for Imagine Play, so they know that those people are our preferred partners. And if people really like what we do for our parties, because we kind of do kind of more, because I feel like now parties are so upscale, you know?
They are, really.
Yeah. So when people really like our party decor, we say, well, you know, this, you can get, you know, this decor from our preferred vendor or whatever, you know? So that kind of helps give value to what your service is, but also brings in kind of a revenue stream for you as well.
True. And to piggyback on what you just said with the birthday party stuff, one of the things that I started doing was creating birthday party packages to go. So the banners, the little pick sticks that you can use as your centerpieces, or the pick sticks that you can put inside your cake, or the backdrops even. I started doing kind of like parties in a box where people can buy a theme for me. I would create it at my store using my Cricut, and then they would come and pick up the package for me. So even though they weren't doing a party in my place, I still made money off of them buying decoration from me. I also, in addition to that, because I did invest in a Cricut, which is a machine that you can kind of make decoration or things for your shirts or whatever on. I started a new clothing brand, and I was able to print shirts using the heat press that I bought in addition to that. And I started making logoed t-shirts with my new brand that I sold in my store. So it wasn't necessarily a place-based thing, but it brought in more money. And how it tied into my place-based was that the new brand that I created was a brand for moms. And with that brand for moms, I did workshops out of my store to help moms with mom things, if you would.
Yeah. So that brings up a really interesting topic, right? Because we're talking about one, kind of like people who already know about your business, right? The
Right.
people that you treat really well, that you want coming back, like good memberships, that's a revenue stream. But when you've capped all of that, basically now what you need to start thinking about is how to bring in people that don't know about your business. And
Right.
that's what we're kind of talking about right now, right? We're talking about what can you do to kind of create hype so that way people will come to the door
Yeah.
that don't already know about you. So it's really important, not because of just birthday parties. A lot of birthday parties is kind of a mix, like birthday parties are a few different things. One, the person that books the birthday party is going to probably usually be like a member or somebody that already comes, right? Probably about, I say 80% of the time is people that already know about your business, right? And then what happens during those birthday parties is that they're bringing people that don't know anything about you
It's
at
like
all.
a commercial.
Exactly.
I used to tell my staff for birthday parties was that the person that booked the party, they already want to be there. You've already sold them. They know what to expect from our space in birthday parties because they've seen it before. They've looked on our website. They know what to expect. Now we just need to deliver them that customer service. But then you have like 10 to 20 or more families coming in. Those families, you're basically putting on an infomercial or a commercial for them about how parties are and how their party could be in the future. So I always made sure that my staff understood that when you're walking around and you're cleaning up and you're interacting with those kids on the play floor, make sure you're interacting with those other families too, those other adults too, because they may decide in the midst of that party that, wow, this seems like a great idea. And they may decide to book their party off of coming and having fun at that party that they were at. So, yeah.
Yeah. The other revenue stream, and this kind of coincides hand in hand, I think, special events and enrichment programs for your space. They kind of are similar, but not really, because I feel like with special events, we do special events for the more popular themes, and we do it, and I feel like our special events get the most recognition as far as outside in the public goes, just because people that don't know about your space is gonna like the Ice Princess or whatever, and they're gonna want to come to your space because they want to see the Ice Princess. So that's why I feel like special events are important, but I also feel like special events itself is the hugest money drainer, even though it could bring in a lot of additional revenue. Because I think that with special events, you tend to spend a lot more money up front trying to get the Ice Princess, get the art and craft and all that stuff to make that event successful so people want to come back.
So one of the things that was really popular at my space was that I did a disco dance party called the Baby Boogie Bash. Our Boogie Bash is always sold out, and it's something that was an additional stream of revenue for that place-based business. And what's really cool is that I'm going to use that Boogie Bash model now to do something else with now that I don't own my space. So your additional stream of revenue, when you think about it, can be something that you're doing in conjunction with your space. But then say you decide to sell your space one day, you may be able to take that idea that you were using as an additional stream of income in your space and use it for something else when you're done with your brick and mortar space. So.
Yeah. I feel like one of the things I do pretty well is the special event, because we usually sell out about 85% of our special events. And we usually cap it probably about 25 kids or 25 families, I would say. And they always usually sell out. And I think the huge thing to get from your special event is just try not to reinvent your special event every single time you do one, because that's where you're going to lose all your money. Find a formula that works for you, and every event, copy that formula. What I mean by that is like copy the same timeline, you know, don't try to like do these outrageous like plans. Like,
very cool. So enrichment programs were an additional stream of income for me on site because I became really good at facilitating activities for the children that included their parents. So I, in essence, began teaching parents how to play with their kids. My background is in psychology and counseling. Before I opened my play space, I was a counselor for kids and their families. So I basically took my expertise with training or teaching families and brought it into my play space. So each day I would do a different enrichment style activity with the parents. I would always start with a circle time where we would introduce the kids in the circle. I'd introduce myself and I'd introduce a topic. And then from there, I would do a specific type of enrichment. So enrichment could be movement, enrichment could be story time, craft time, painting, or sensory play. And based on those things, I would always kind of change it up each week. But going back to consistency, the parents always knew what to expect during the week because I would always have a certain type of enrichment each day. Like, for example, movement was always on Mondays and sensory play was always on Thursdays. So it made it easier for me to plan, but I would just change up the actual activities based on the topic that I would kind of plan out at the beginning of the year for each week of the month. So I always knew I just needed to change the theming of that actual enrichment activity during that day. So enrichment for me was easy because either I can do it and have someone else man my front desk, or I can train a staff on how to do a certain topic and man the front desk. And we didn't have to outsource those enrichment activities by paying someone from the outside because we knew how to do it in-house. And now going back to streams of income and things you can kind of take with you once you may decide to sell your business or do something else, I now teach other people how to do circle times, and I do circle times for people outside in my community. So it's just something that you can transfer those skills that you have from your play space to outside of your play space. But before we get off of this week's podcast, I want to kind of go through the list of some of the ideas that we had for possible streams of income. So if we start online, some possible ways to bring in additional streams of income online would be consulting, online classes. You can monetize your YouTube, or you can monetize your Instagram. I think Tammy does an excellent job at creating videos and content on her Instagram channel. And it's just a great way for people to, you know, see what you're doing and want to purchase your services based on what they see. The second possible stream would be on-site streams of income. So Tammy and I have talked about special events. Tammy's talked about photography, special classes that you can teach. That would be those enrichment classes that I talked about. Creating additional brands within your space that you can make money off of. For example, that mom's brand that I created, or I did workshops, but I also had clothing that they can buy in regards to it. And then community partners, we kind of talked about a little bit. Tammy talked about collaborating with community partners where they can pay for something from you and they can utilize your space, or you can have them pay you to put their brand on your website or on your newsletter. You can talk about them on your social media, but they pay you in order to get that marketing space from you. And then the last possible streams of income types would be offsite. So mobile play areas, mobile parties, and then mobile enrichment programs are just some of the ideas. So these are just some ideas that you can come up with to make additional streams of income from your space. But I'd say, wouldn't you, Tammy, that the possibilities are endless?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say to go too outside of what your niche is, but I definitely think that you can take any skills that you currently have and kind of mold it to what your space can be. Community partner programs. I feel like there is so much in this area that can help your play space. For
Oh,
instance, yeah, no, not just even,
yes.
yeah, not even just, what we mentioned briefly, having people, pay to be your preferred partners. We mentioned about bringing other people in that can do classes for you, but also businesses that might want to connect with people that are in your business. Like, we have lots of people that like to come in and they want to sponsor a day of play.
Yes.
Things like that. That also helps bring additional revenue stream for you as well, because it helps the community, for one, because they get discounted play, but it helps that business because now they're connecting with people that are in their niche that they want to connect with. So look for businesses that are looking for families, things like that might want to sponsor your play space.
True. And let's talk a little bit about that, Tammy. So when I explain a day of play to a potential business owner coming in to sponsor a day of play, or if I explain it to an indoor play space owner for them to understand how to do it, is I compare it to that business paying for a table at an event that they would set up. If you were going to a special event, you would pay about $250 or more to pay for a booth at a special event. And then now people would then come to your booth at that special event to learn about your product. So in essence, it's the same thing. They're paying $250 or more, depending on whatever price you set. But then your clientele for that day, for however many you've covered in that set price that you've set for that day of play, can come play for free during that time frame that business is there. They set up a table or a booth, and now whomever's there would find out more about that business. They can do a mini workshop during their day of play that they've set up, or they can just have their booth out where people are seeing their stuff, or they can set up things for people to test from their business. I had someone that made soaps at one time, and she set up like a little booth where people can wash their hands with her soap and do different, smell tests on her soap. So, it just depends on that business, but it's almost like them paying for a booth. But now what I tell people is they don't have to share the people coming to the event with everyone else. They get them all for themselves.
Yeah. And that's interesting that you say that too. I always try to tell the businesses that are sponsoring the day too, ways that they can get more traffic into their space. So yeah, you already get a lot of traffic because you're saying you come in between 10 to 12 and this business will be here and they're paying for everybody's admission, right? So you do get a lot of traffic that way too. But then I always tell people, hey, you should add on some things to kind of help drive the traffic, right? Yeah. That will also bring you revenue too, because they might add on an activity that you provide that will help bring in traffic, and they can pay you extra for that activity too. So so if you provide characters or if you provide enrichment activities, you could say, well, if you want to add on these during your sponsored play, I guarantee you it will bring in an extra amount of people or whatever, and they can pay you a little bit extra to do those activities. you know.
Yes, for sure.
Do we want to talk about field trips or group rates or anything like that? Is that kind of included in the realm of additional revenue, or?
We can talk about that. It can be talked about as an additional stream of income. I do think it's, it's admission, but not every play space does group visits. So it's definitely something that we possibly should include here for people to hear more about, because they may not have considered it.
I mean, we don't get very many field trips at our space, but we do get inquiries for it. And I think one of the biggest problems for us is that our space is pretty small. So you can't really accommodate like a trip for like 40 kids or 50 kids or whatever. But we do, we let them know ahead of time. Yeah, we can accommodate a group rate. If they're expecting like 20 to 25 kids, we usually do close down the facility for them. Because by that time that they pay per child, it really it's already like most of our daily sales goal. Field trips that work really well are, do you guys have Head Start where you are? I don't know.
We do, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so like programs like that are do really well because they cater to kids that are all age types.
They do.
So
and usually there's money allotted for those programs to do special things as well. So they might use that money. I think something that's really important as we're looking at additional streams of income and talking about field trips is programs that have money set aside to do things that might include things such as your plays. One of the things that we've done for VPKs is we may not be able to accommodate that school's entire VPK program because my space was a bit smaller as well, but I would suggest breaking the classes up into smaller groups. But then also, in addition to an option of closing your place down for the day, is you can do after hours activities where you can bring in those schools or big mommy play groups after hours or before you open, so they can have your place to themselves before your place opens or once your place closes. And then in addition to those play groups, you can do fundraisers for those different organizations as well. They can bring in so much money, and then you can say, we will donate this certain amount of money. Because if you're looking at a after hours play group or an after hours field trip, if you would, after hours, that's additional money that you have made already. You donate a part of that money, so now that donation becomes something that becomes additional marketing for you in some cases, because it will get advertised that you are now contributing to your community by donating money. So in essence, you'll get more clientele to do that with you, maybe.
There's a lot of daycares out there that have a lot of funds for that, just maybe getting in the phone book and just contacting all the local in-home or whatever, that do that. They might only have 10 kids, but that's 10 more kids that you didn't have in your play space before.
And then one of the last things that I'd like to touch bases on was going back to enrichment. So there are programs that you can become certified in or that your staff can become certified in. Tammy had talked about reaching out to music vendors or a yoga teacher, but recently I became certified as a kids yoga teacher through a program. So you can pay for your staff or for yourself to become certified in things like kidding around yoga or kinder music or music together or some of those branded programs that are out there. And now, because those programs that are branded are already doing their marketing as well through their websites or their social media, you can now become listed onto their websites. And now people can find your space through those branded websites because people are looking for those specific branded classes. And now, since your place does them, they may come to your space not because they were necessarily coming to your space, but because they're coming to that branded program.
Any other things that we want to touch on before we kind of close out?
I think we've touched bases on pretty much everything on our list. I think this was a great topic.
Yeah, this was a really good topic, and I feel like it's going to help a lot of businesses or a lot of place-based places like us or like me.
You and me in the past, right?
So our next episode is talking about understanding your niche, and we're going to talk a little bit about the definition of play spaces. You can find me on social media at playspaceowner.com or playspaceowner at playspaceowner on Instagram. And if you want to follow Imagine Play, we have a Facebook, Imagine Play EG, and our website's imagineplayelkgrove.com. And then Yolanda will tell you about her.
Great. And if you wanted to follow me, you can follow me at PlaySpace Solutions on Instagram as well as Facebook. And we also have a website, which is playspace.solutions. And when you look me up, you can look me up on Instagram under the name of the business or Yolanda D. Tyler.
Okay, great, guys. We will talk to you next time.
Bye.